Right, I think that is us live. So, boss, thanks for joining us. It's been a pretty crazy week or so for the club, especially behind the scenes. It's fair to say there's quite a lot's gone on, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, quite a lot that's gone on, which I think for, well, pretty much all of us is very little to do with the jobs that we're employed to do, the jobs that we want to be doing. Is very, very occupied with obviously a situation and the virus that we fully respect, but it's caused an incredible amount of stress and an incredible change in workload and, like I say, the type of workload that we've all been experiencing or used to.
Yeah, and obviously we've mentioned previously about dealing with setbacks and that kind of dressing room spirit at the moment. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of disappointment about the way that it kind of panned out with that Spurs tie, but I guess you're confident in the group of people you have to bounce back.
Yeah, I'm very confident in the group that we've got, and I know the one thing that we have done, without repeating what you just said there, but the one thing we have done is we've bounced back from a number of setbacks in recent times. So I know that people are used to dealing with some disappointments and things that don't go our way. So it's certainly something that we'll be embracing. I think with the Tottenham game, it's a huge disappointment to everybody because we set our stall out to have a cup run this year. We had a fantastic opportunity at the end of it, or not at the end of it, but as part of that cup run. And to not get the opportunity to go up against Tottenham was very, very disappointing. But I think at the same time, we have to remember we still got there. So albeit we didn't get the chance to do the bit that we all really wanted to, we still did it, and we still got there, and we still managed to earn ourselves a tie against Tottenham. So it's important to remember that.
Yeah, and I don't know if technically it counts as us being undefeated or not. I guess on the football pitch we are. So looking back at that month of September, obviously a lot of positive results. I know there's been times where you've mentioned that you'd like to see us play a bit better, but overall, what kind of lessons have been learned from that opening month of the campaign?
Probably that outright, really. I think that there was times last year, certainly in the start, where we were the better team in games. I think back to Stevenage at home. I think it was Crawley at home with the early games of last season where we performed well, drew against Stevenage by being the dominant team, let points slip against Crawley, by at the same time with a dominant team there. So I think what we've learned as a group, what I've learned as a coach and manager, and what the players have learned about being a group is it doesn't always have to go in our favour in terms of the way that we perform. We don't always have to be the best team out on the pitch. We aspire to be that, obviously, but at times there needs to be a little bit more grit. But I think I say the word determination, but I think a different type of determination to be difficult to play against and to get through difficult times by far, not by any stretch saying that we lack determination back then, but I think it's a different make-up to the group now and a different focus that we can, not just win by being a better team. We can win by being the other team in the game, if you like.
There's obviously been a bit of a kind of, even though it wasn't planned, a bit of a break here for the squad in terms of no football before we go into what I counted as 7 weeks of Tuesday games, Saturday games. So it's going to be relentless now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty relentless in terms of the start that we've had, but obviously not to that degree. If anything, if we're going to look upon what's happened in the last couple of weeks, you'd say that the boys have been given a bit of a well-earned rest, if you like, off the back of the series of games that we were part of. I think that a lot of our season is going to look like this. I don't doubt that at any stage this year games are going to get called off, whether that be weather permitting or due to the situation that we found ourselves in. So we've got to be ready and willing to embrace that challenge. We've got to make sure that we look after, protect and prepare the group the best that we possibly can. So I'm not saying that we're going to have that opportunity to do that this weekend, but I think across the season, when we're having these relentless periods, we're going to rely heavily on the squad, which we have already. But at the same time, we've got to do everything we can to make sure that people are ready to go and perform.
Yeah, talking about that squad, obviously condition of that's something that's really important. With everyone having self-isolated in the last kind of fortnight or so, how have you managed to keep the fitness up at home and kind of best prepare for the weekend?
It's been very difficult. You have to say that. I said what I will say is that the staff have worked relentlessly, whether that be the coaching staff and the analysis team working together to make sure that we had an opportunity to analyse our performances and what we've been doing in the game so far, and then to prepare us for whatever our next game was going to be, whether it had been Cheltenham for the coming weekend or anything in the longer term. So I think there's been a relentless attitude to analyse what we've been about and see how we can get better. From a physical point of view, from the players, it's been difficult because of the symptoms and the what the virus brings to people. We've not been able to have contact. I wasn't able to have contact with the players on a physical level for a 10-day period because you can put them at harm. So that tells you the length of time that people were either in recovery or not able to do physical activity. And then obviously since Tuesday, Wednesday, we've now been able to start sort of putting information and sessions across to the players. But because of the isolation period for the staff, that's meant that we've not been able to go into the training ground and work as a group and do anything in terms of football related. So it's been very frustrating. I think for by no means is it the way to go and prepare a group of athletes. Forget what game our players play. Preparation for performance like this is by no means ideal. But I go back to what we touched on, in one of your first questions, is there's a relentless desire for this group to get better. I know I've got a fantastic group of players that will be working hard at home. I know one or two of them have planned to meet up and do some little bits of football work in order to try to be somewhat prepared for the weekend. And I use that word creative that I've used a number of times already, because that's what we're going to have to be in order to try and put a team out at the weekend that's going to go out to try to achieve and get some points against Cheltenham.
Obviously, talking about your team selection, I think you kind of alluded to it on our Q&A the other night, but will there be players that are unavailable to you this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to wait for them all to phone me up and tell me which ones are all right and the ones that are able to play before I pick a team. I think it's a little bit like the Mansfield game, really. But I think, we've got a group that we can pick from. We've got a group that I can select a team and a squad from. So I'm confident that we'll put 11 players out on the pitch. I'm confident that we will have the allocated number of substitutes. So I don't feel that we're going to be vulnerable on that front. Where I do feel that will be some vulnerabilities will be the fact that the boys haven't been able to do any extensive training. We also have to look at some of the players that tested positive, the ones that tested negative, because those also at the same time are players that some have been allowed out Tuesday, some are not allowed out until they turn up to Saturday's game. So they would have been limited on the physical work that they would have been able to do. So that will impact selection at the weekend. But it comes back to the same thing, the same practicalities, is that we pick a team that we think are going to go out and perform and win against Cheltenham. At the same time, I have every faith in the squad and the rotation and the manipulation of the team that we have to do from time to time.
Talk a bit about Cheltenham then, because obviously they had a decent season last season in their playoff campaign, which ultimately ended a bit early. But obviously we come up against them in kind of differing ties last year. What do you make of them, and what can we expect on Saturday?
I like Cheltenham. I think they're a good team. I think they're the type of team that can do most things that you're required at League Two level. I would say that if it's a game of football where they, where you judge it on the team having possession of the ball or how productive they are as a team in possession, I would say they're very, very capable on that front. They've got some very, very good and very creative players. I like the way they play. I think on the flip side of that, they've got good physical stature men in their team that when the game gets a bit rough and tumble and a bit more like, well, I suppose, a stereotypical League Two game at times, I think they're capable of doing that as well. They were my favourites to go up out of the playoffs, so I got that one well wrong. But fully respect their manager and I like what they're about as a team. Obviously, they were huge part of our start to last season and everything that went with that first game of the season, and it turned out to be quite a dramatic game on their level in terms of having two players sent off, and then I think that the craziness of the game when we went to Cheltenham, of the weather and the circumstances of which that game was played, made it a very, very difficult occasion for us, and albeit that they won the game, I think it made it a very, very difficult football match on the day. So we look forward to the game. We know that the game, we've known sort of throughout this week that the potential is that the game was going to go ahead. So we'll be doing and have been doing everything that's been within our power to go out and perform and get points against them.
Yeah, and obviously they've looking at their fixtures as well. Last weekend they were postponed against Grimsby. So maybe on the face of things, you might say, well, both teams have kind of been out of action, but I guess it's a different set of circumstances for them, isn't it?
Yeah, they would have trained for 2 weeks and we haven't. So I think that's a drastic thing to have taken away from you. But look, there's no, we can use it as an excuse and feel sorry for ourselves, or we can say, well, let's get on with it. There was every chance the game was going to get called off at the weekend with the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And who knows, we might have had the points taken away from us. The club might have experienced a hefty fight, whatever the sanctions were or weren't going to be off the back of us not playing this game this weekend. We're almost set up now with an opportunity to go and get more out of it than perhaps we thought we were going to get this time last week. So, by no means are we using it for an excuse. By no means will we be sitting back and feeling sorry for ourselves. If anything, we feel that there's been some difficult and harsh treatment to the way that this game has come about. So we're going to be embracing it to try and come out of it with points that, like I say, we felt that we probably weren't going to get.
And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the action keeps coming thick and fast. And Tuesday night, it's an EFL Trophy game at home to AFC Wimbledon. Will you be in a position to rotate the squad in that one? Yeah,
100%. I think, like we said there, that the lads that come out of isolation on Saturday, I'm going to have to be careful with them. I won't mention any names because I'll probably be telling Cheltenham what my team's going to be. So I think the boys coming out of isolation on Saturday will have to be careful with them. But it gives us a real good opportunity to go and get them minutes in their legs, an opportunity to go out, great opposition on Tuesday night against Wimbledon, and a cup competition that we started well in. So like every fixture coming thick and fast, we're going to embrace it. For us, it's a good opportunity to rotate the squad pretty quickly and get the group back out there playing games and minutes under their belt. We come back and thought we were in a great opportunity, great position coming back 5-6 days earlier than most of the teams in our league for pre-season. But this 2-week period probably levels that out again now. So getting back out on the pitch again Tuesday night gives us a great opportunity to be ready to go again.
Absolutely. In terms of off the field at the moment, obviously the transfer window for EFL clubs and clubs in the UK is kind of approaching. We've kind of had discussions here and there about kind of what your aims have been in terms of the squad. Has anything changed in that, and can we expect any ins and outs?
Nothing's changed directly, but what has changed is there's been some developing conversations between myself and a couple of the clubs that we're trying to work with in terms of bringing some players into the squad. So we're hoping that those will develop in the next couple of days, probably not before the weekend, but who knows, if it develops quickly enough, we might see some players coming in very, very soon. But we would like to think as we start to approach the beginning of next week, there'll be some rotation. There'll be some developments with regards to the squad and players coming into the building. And then I think there will be, bearing in mind, one or two of our younger players that need opportunities to go and play and get minutes that they're probably not going to get with our club at the moment. There might be some movement with one of them getting that access to going out and getting some loan experience as well.
Absolutely. I think another point to come back on is with self-isolation in the last couple of weeks for large members of the squad. I guess you'd have been using it in different ways to kind of, without a game at the weekend, for example. Were you watching any of our league opponents?
Yeah, all the staff did. We made the most of the streaming opportunities, which I must add, as biased as I am, they're not as good as our one, albeit as I haven't watched it yet. But no one sitting in a glamorous-looking studio, no pre, half, and post match interviews and all that sort of thing. So I think it was a great thing to be able to experience and see what other clubs are doing. But between myself and the staff, we looked at the Newport Bolton game. We looked at I watched Salford against Forest Green. What the other games that we covered? We've covered the Port Vale game. So between sort of 3 or 4 of us, we had a good look at some of the opposition. Not necessarily ones that we might be playing against, but games that cause us some interest. Teams that maybe we feel are going to be strong in the league this year for a number of different reasons. But it was like all of this, like any setback or any issue that you find yourself in. If you sit back and feel sorry for yourselves and moan and groan about the fact that you're not playing on a Saturday, I think you're the only ones that suffer. So our approach has been to step forward and embrace the fact that we had a Saturday, call it a Saturday off. Don't think anyone had the day off, but we had a Saturday without a game. So it was important that we really embrace the opportunity to see what else is out there.
Absolutely. I think that'll probably leave us with little to cover now. But we have had one message in the comments just asking about the Grimsby game, which has moved to a 5:30 kickoff. I think we'll have news of that in about 15 minutes or so, as to why that comes across. But beyond that, Ross, I think we'll say thank you for your time this afternoon, and we'll look forward to the game on the weekend.
Yep, likewise. Take care.